The old house stood on the hill, its dark windows staring like eyes into the soul of anyone who dared glance its way. People whispered it was haunted, haunted by a ghost that walked its lonely halls every night. A figure, both mist and moonlight, drifted through the corridors, leaving a whisper of sadness in its wake. Everyone around avoided the place, too scared to come near. This ghost was a mystery, a story often whispered by the fireplace on cold, dark nights. But every story has a beginning, and in this story there was a boy named Thomas. Unlike others, Thomas wasn't afraid. He was curious. He loved stories and was determined to uncover the ghost's secret. One windy night, as brave as ever, he crept up the hill, the wind howling around him like a hungry wolf. Peeking through a broken window, Thomas took his first step into the unknown. Inside the dusty, forgotten house, the ghost moved silently, a cold wind trailing behind it. Thomas, though shivering, stayed put, his eyes fixed on the spectral figure as it stopped by the old fireplace. It reached out, its touch leaving a trace of frost on the cold, forgotten stone. Holding his breath, Thomas felt a wave of deep, painful sadness emanating from the ghost. Then it spoke. Its voice was nothing more than a sigh, carrying stories of a love lost, a promise broken, and an endless wait for a love that never returned. Thomas listened, his heart pounding with empathy. He wanted to help, but what could a boy do for a ghost? As the first light of dawn crept in, the ghost faded away, and Thomas knew his next step was to uncover the truth behind these whispered sorrows. Days turned into weeks as Thomas's curiosity led him to the local library. He pored over old newspapers and dusty records, eager to learn about the house's past. He discovered the ghost's name was Emily, a woman who had been engaged to a young sailor. He had promised to return to her, to marry her, but fate was cruel and his ship was lost at sea. Emily refused to accept his disappearance. She waited for him, years passing with no return. She died waiting, her heart filled with hope and sorrow. Now her ghost remained, bound by a broken heart and an unfulfilled promise. Thomas understood now. Emily wasn't just a ghost to fear. She was a heartbroken woman, and he was determined to help her find the peace she deserved. Thomas returned to the house that night. He stood before the fireplace, his eyes closed as he spoke to Emily. "I know your story," he told her, "and I understand your pain." He spoke of the sailor lost at sea and of the love that wouldn't die. As the air grew cold, Emily appeared before him, her ghostly face stained with tears. Taking a deep breath, Thomas continued, "Your love was true, and the sailor would never want you to be trapped in sorrow. It's time to let go, time to find peace." Emily listened, her form wavering in the dim light as Thomas's words reached her, soothing her centuries-old pain. As dawn approached, a light appeared beside Emily, a warm, familiar light. The sailor stepped forward. He hadn't forgotten Emily. He had been lost, but now he was found. He reached for her hand, his eyes filled with love. Emily turned to Thomas, offering him a sad smile. Then, she took the sailor's hand. Together, they vanished with the first rays of the sun. The house fell silent. The ghost was gone. Only Thomas remained. As he left the house, the story of Emily and her sailor etched in his heart. He knew that even in death, love could find a way. And sometimes, all it took was a little courage to set things right.